There's a new motor mouth robot that actually uses artificial intelligence to mimic the human voice. I don't know, maybe if that was inside of a robotic head or something, I'd feel more comfortable, but I'm not a fan, even if it works. In the world of robot dogs, arms are definitely overrated. Because now, thanks to AI, they can use their feet for object manipulation. The OB robotic arm with spoon on the end, now with artificial intelligence, has such precision, it can gently go into any mouth.
Elon Musk just announced that too many game studios are owned by massive corporations. So he's going to use his massive corporation to start an AI game studio. It's finally here.
Google dropped a new AI model that lets you make an infinite world from a single photo. I mean, we're talking full immersive rich environments, not just like Nerf 3D or angles or any of that. It's incredible. The AI game space is moving so fast, I literally have nostalgia from something that's like 3 months old, that Doom DeepMind drop. And yet, here we are, still in 2024. There's a new AI model called PanoRadar, and it turns radio waves into 3D objects. Yeah, that means you can look right through walls. Al Rabbit asked Claude to organize his desktop, and hilarity ensued. Luke Chan wrote a really interesting article about why we need to avoid an unlived life. Yeah, literally he's saying your moral obligation is to do what is fun. There's a new platform that allows AI to learn from constant, nuanced human feedback rather than large data sets. Some new research that I guess was a little overshadowed by Google's news today, but is still really incredible, called Cat4D, allows for full four-dimensional views from diffusion models. I mean, look at that little rabbit with the rose. I can view from any angle. But first, let's check out Alan's conservative countdown to AGI, and it is ticked up a notch. Oh God. Okay, so we are at 84%. Didn't see that one coming. Oh, DeepMind introduces the Genie 2 world model. Wow. Oh, I can't believe he went to 84. I thought that had to be embodied, but maybe because it creates open worlds. Let me read this. So Dr. Allen said, Genie 2 is the path to solving the structural problems of training embodied agents safely while achieving the breadth and generality required to progress towards AGI. Interesting. I mean, we've had some simulation kind of software from NVIDIA for a while now that's been pretty accurate when it's been converted into robots, but he does make this side note that DeepMind has not demonstrated specific real-world use cases, but expect applications across diverse sectors to, quote, instantly train humanoids in agriculture, mining, manufacturing and assembly, construction, supply chain, operations, and transport networks. Healthcare assistance, home duties, including making coffee, and anywhere else you can put a robot. I'm sure this making coffee thing goes to... Yep, Steve Wozniak. That's kind of the new Turing test. If you know, the Turing test was like, if AI is real, then humans can't tell the difference between a human or an AI that's talking to you, but then ChatGPT just like crushed that, and then we moved the goalpost like always. And now it seems like the new goalpost was this comment that Steve Wozniak made when he's like, I believe it when it can walk into a house it doesn't know, make coffee, and then leave the house. But anyways, that's a side note. That is an actual update. I did not see that coming. Alan's conservative countdown to AGI ratcheted up 84%. Put that one down into the record books. It is donezo. December 4th, 84%. Wow. But first, if you want to support the channel, I would appreciate it if you would sign up for my Patreon. Patreon.com/Dylan Curious. My goal is to get 100 members in the community. We are at 73 right now. You can join for as little as $2.99 a month, and that goes directly into making these videos better. Alternatively, if you already have your credit card hooked up to YouTube and it's more convenient for you, you can just hit this join button right underneath the video. So become a member in either place, and here we go. More AI news. But first, let's talk about this motor mouth robot. And I do know what you're thinking, unless you're like a very pure mind. But that is not what this is. This is a voice robot. It features a mechanical vocal cord, and it's designed to produce sounds similar to human speech. So have a listen to AI audio that is not through Suno, it's not through Udio, but this is actually AI controlling a voice. It does something much more real. Music to my ear. Utilizing a compressed air tank, air forces vibrations through the rubber vocal cords with a real voice box chamber. This mimics the human vocal tracts properties, I guess. Why did they give it Donald Trump hair? Actually, I don't know what that is. Maybe they're covering the motor mechanism that brings it up and down? Okay, what's different about this robot dog than some of the other ones you've seen before is that it was trained with what is called, I'm going to say it wrong, but perceptive pedipulation. You know, like pedi, like foot, like a pedicure or whatever. Pedipulation leverages the feet of legged robots for mobile manipulation, eliminating the need for dedicated robotic arms. So this robot doesn't really use arms. It's like my feet are all I need to push boxes around and press elevator buttons and interact with people. I can't think of an analogy with humans because humans like never really do that with their feet. But, you know, this is robots we're talking about and AI.
Why?
And it's interesting to researchers because this technique skips the need for bulky robotic arms, making the bots lighter and more efficient. And look, let's be honest, this is a big step forward. Pun intended. And man, I feel so inadequate. Like, look at these things. I never use them to their full potential. Imagine if I kept my hands covered up by one of these things its whole life, you know? Actually, on a side note, I don't know if you've ever seen people who like really do use their feet. Like some people who have like problems with their arms, they can get like really good at like holding pencils and writing and opening doors and stuff with their feet. The brain is definitely capable of getting more out of this guy if you like, you know, want to. New AI-powered robot spoon could be coming to your kitchen soon. I mean, it's mostly for people with disabilities, but it's still incredible that artificial intelligence can make it so trustworthy and smooth and soft that it can just look at what kind of food is on the plate, know where the human mouth is, and this is so helpful. I mean, imagine how many people are just like unable to just eat right. I mean, you know, it's a problem for lots and lots of people, and any of us can have issues, and you know, having a human just feed you all the time, I don't know. I mean, it's just nice that AI could probably help with something like this. Well, very cool. Might need one for babies too. Ooh, I don't know about that. I'm comfortable with something like this for older people or people who have issues, but not babies. I mean, I guess I should be, but do you want a robot bottle feeding a baby? I don't know. It seems like babies need human contact at that point in a way that maybe somebody who's a little bit older understands that they just don't want to burden someone. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's up to you guys. Let me know in the comments below if you'd want to invent something like this for baby feeding. I'm not sure about that. So kind of telling for the big Google Genie breakthrough we're about to talk about right now, but Elon Musk said there's too many game studios that are owned by massive corporations. XAI is going to start an AI game studio to make games great again.
How does this solve that problem? How is AI the solution here? AI has become almost this wacky buzzword that's just this catch-all that can do anything. Like a mythical, magical whatchamahoosit. Like, AI is gonna solve every single problem. You don't like these boring, formulaic, soulless games? Well, don't worry. AI is gonna make nothing but the best games ever made. How? AI right now can only produce soulless, generic, formulaic copies of things that it's been trained on. You're not solving a problem here. This is an idea almost as bad as garlic mouthwash.
You know, I guess you probably heard Elon Musk is like one of the best Diablo players in the world. So, I mean, he definitely loves video games. I think he was like a little sour where he said something on Twitter about how, or on X, how like the company that owns Diablo should probably like be giving him money because he's promoting it so much because he's so famous. And there really is a future for video games and artificial intelligence. I'm convinced that and you'll see soon, the diffusion models and what has been achieved by Google this week is incredible. Virtual worlds are going to be diffused into reality, and people who own those massive servers are going to be able to create the models that will run either on the cloud or locally to do this stuff. So, you know what? As long as he's building Optimus robots and cars, and there's Neuralink, and he has literally infinite money to build servers with the top of the line GPUs, it is possible, actually. Charlie's got a few thoughts on it.
AI is being used by tons of weirdo to produce unplayable, irredeemable, putrid cash grab garbage right now.
All right, and with that, ironically, let's now talk about probably the greatest breakthrough in diffusion AI-generated video games that we've seen yet. Google has dropped Genie 2, and it is a large-scale, foundational world model that is controllable like a video game. I have to think everybody at Meta and OpenAI got called in today to be like, hey, why don't you stop what you're working on, make sure you understand what Google just achieved here. So imagine something that's similar to Sora. It can generate amazing 3D environments with physics and all of that, but it's not just a little video clip. It's literally an entire immersive world. It is an unlimited playable 3D environment. And it can do all of this from just a single prompt. And you can actually jump right into these worlds and move around with your keyboard. Like if you remember back to the Doom demo that they had, that old video game Doom for the toaster or whatever the original one was played on. It was blocky, it was chunky, but it was the earliest like kind of shooter I think that might even have ever existed. And it was incredible that it could diffuse that into reality 3 months ago. I never expected environments to look this good this rapidly after that breakthrough. But here we are. And the demos on their website show that they can do realistic physics, there's water flow, there's smoke. There's a lot of stuff that make it just kind of mind-blowing when you compare it to something like Unreal Engine. This is a massive leap from their previous 2D models, and it's such a big jump from even the best 3D game systems we've seen. Like the kind that diffuse, like the diffusion game systems. Like I really had to rethink if 2026 is the year that there's a breakout game that's built on a diffusion, like AI generation model. I could imagine IP being built into the prompt, so you have like a Star Wars universe where whatever you build has certain characteristics. The more memory we put into these LLMs, you can use them to generate long-form stories with memory. Like this is all coming together so quickly. So just look at some of these videos. So you have this robot here using the keyboard that you normally use to move around, W for forward, A to move left, S for backwards, and the trees and this tree in the foreground and the background are moving properly in all of these different 5 videos, even the jumping one. And then boom, a different prompt, humanoid robot in ancient Egypt, first person view of a loft apartment in a big city. Okay, and then this thing called generating counterfactual is basically meaning what if. Like what if we go down this path, or what if we do this? Like, you know, if we throw a rock, does it land in the water? Because then we have to generate the water. It can do all, I mean, there's like these infinite ways that everything can play out based on your decisions, but it's diffused. Like the same way you just make a prompt and it pops into existence, it has a sense for how the character and the environment work, and then you make a decision and it lives in this world. Like how could we not be living in a simulation if we're able to create this kind of stuff right now? Where are we going to be in 10, 20 years? Like, what if the things in this world, okay, become so conscious, like because they're so complex, they end up having patterns in their brains that seem like neurons. But anyways, that's a side note. But here, Google DeepMind talks about long horizon memory. Man, I knew, like DeepMind, they started with the Atari games. They were doing so much interesting stuff to pioneer this whole field. And I know they missed the big transformer thing and the large language thing, but seeing them kind of back maybe in the top seat, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, at least in this niche. So Genie 2 is capable of remembering parts of the world that are no longer in view, then rendering them accurately when they become observable again. So that would definitely be something that would need to be solved, and I'm surprised they addressed this early on in the development of this kind of technology. I absolutely would think that something like the model we saw just 3 months ago, you would see a door, you'd walk through the door, you'd move around in that room and then go turn around and then go back into the room you came from, and it would be different. So the fact that the memory works that way in an environment like this, as far as we know, Sora, Kling, none of these other models are doing anything close to that. Generating new plausible content on the fly and maintain a consistent world for up to a minute. Oh man, it can even do different perspectives, first person point of view, isometric view, third. See, I would have thought maybe it was trained on a certain style of game and it could only do that too, but man, if it can do diverse environments. And look at some of these examples, bursting balloons, opening doors, shooting barrels of explosives. Look at that explosion. That looks so much like a reasonable video game. Like that could easily be a mobile game. Let me see, the balloon is a little wacky when it hits it and the character kind of does one of those AI things, but still it's pretty good. This one definitely, this door, this looks very real. Genie 2 has learned how to animate various types of characters doing different activities. Genie 2 models other agents and even complex interactions with them. See, that's another aspect. If you could imagine a certain language model that has a memory for each of the NPCs that you interact with, and then of course you leave the scene and it can remember what they might be talking about, so you come back later and like, wow. And the physics, Genie 2 model water effects look amazing. I mean, I guess that's a little glassy, but I mean, it's just a video game. It doesn't look that much different than a, you know, just a mid-tier game that you'd find right now. Here's some examples of the smoke effects. Oh yeah, like the Eye of Sauron over there. 1800s London. Whoa. Oh, modeling gravity. Oh man, don't fall out. Oh no, the car's going off. Yep, that's gravity. Ooh, and then crash down at the bottom, kind of. See this horse jumping here. Let's see how it handles the gravity. Jump and then splash into the water. Yep, looks pretty real. Genie 2 models point and directional lighting pretty well. The reflections look really good. Oh, the grass is blowing in the wind. Water flowing in a river. Genie 2 prompted with real-world photos. So interesting. Do you think Google Maps, they're just going to drop all of those photos of like our whole planet in there, and then you can just actually play any game like GTA like on Earth anywhere that there's Google Maps? Yeah, like all those trees, the water, the environment, it all just comes to life and is something you can navigate through. Wow, look, you take Imagen 3, you generate this just 2D static image, then you pop this in the new model and like the stairs, the 3 doors, it just imagines, like it sees those steps, it's like, all right, let's go up some steps, and then just imagines more and more steps and what some video game like this might look like and where it might take you. It's so interesting. Next up, let's talk about some superhuman AI vision that lets robots see through walls. It is actually kind of funny when you think about all the drama with Tesla and how Elon chose not to put LiDAR in the cars and said we're driving on camera vision alone. I did wonder, like, why don't you use radar? Like, radar has been used, it seems like all the movies, like submarines and airplanes, everybody's using radar to detect things, but why not put LiDAR, radar, and cameras in these things? Like, radar has to be fairly reasonably priced, especially if you want a car that's like autonomous. You definitely, it's so important that it doesn't hit things. You might as well throw in the extra $500, $1,000, I don't know, just to like make the car able to see more. But yeah, you can imagine how something like traditional radar, but instead of like dot dot, you know, like beep beep beep, there's a big object there. Imagine as AI can get more sensitive to the tiny bits of reflection that come from radar, from radio waves hitting different types of objects, bouncing back, being detected. They give away the shape, right? But AI can get in there and see a bunch of examples of things. You can say, like, here's the shape of an object, right? You hit it with radar, some of it bounces back. It's really sloppy, like a regular person couldn't make a lot out of it, but you train the AI and say, this is the shape, this is the radar response, and then it picks up on lots of these patterns, and all of a sudden, yeah, it could probably get pretty accurate at finding people and stop signs and stoplights and all the stuff that's out there in the world. So here at the University of Pennsylvania, they created this PanoRadar model. It turns basic radio waves into detailed 3D images using artificial intelligence. And the cool thing about radio waves is that unlike traditional sensors like cameras or LiDAR that struggle with obstacles like smoke, fog, or even walls, PanoRadar can see right through them. It's like giving robots a kind of X-ray vision, and the best part is that it's way, way, way cheaper than LiDAR. Okay, yeah, and also it's not lost on me that you're right. If radio waves do go through too many things, then I could see how that wouldn't be great for the car example, but there are places where it would be good for AI to know what's going on based on what reflects off radio waves. Actually, let's do a quick ChatGPT sidetrack. What kind of materials can radio waves go through and which ones can they not go through? Also, do they go slowly through some materials? Because I guess the AI would probably figure out some of that too. Because it kind of blows my mind to think that some of the radio waves that are outside the visible spectrum go through things like glass. Like, it's like glass being an ultraviolet or an infrared wavelength to other materials. Okay, so materials that radio waves can penetrate easily: glass, plastic, drywall, wood, certain fabrics and clothing. Okay, so think about it. Wood is like glass if you're a radio wave, not a light, like a visible spectrum ray. But they get blocked by aluminum, copper, steel, wet soil, fresh water, concrete, brick, stone. That'd probably still be super useful on a car, right? Especially if you just trained it on what kind of materials it can see and it knows not to trust itself for like wood and drywall and plastic, stuff like that. I don't know. Fascinating research. All right, so Al Rabbit wrote an interesting piece on Medium. It is called, I Asked Claude to Organize My Messy Desktop, and Here's What Happened. So we've talked about computer use before, where Claude actually can grab your mouse and like take action. It can look through tabs. It can fill out forms. I know, somebody that maybe you or a guy or a girl who has a messy desktop might be interested in saying, can you just clean this up for me? Let's see what happens. So he asks, organize my desktop by file content, not file type. So Claude says, first, let me see what files we have to organize here. Okay, so it goes to the terminal to look at it, like in a more prompt-like way, and it decides to list out all the items that are on the desktop. It wants to learn more about the files, so it downloads some more tools that give it more power to read what's on the screen. And then it goes into the files and reads them all so that it can create meaningful folders such as vehicle research, company assets, etc. So then he says, act like a human. So then it decides to start moving the mouse around and looking at it more like the way a human would instead of like using the terminal. Yeah, look, it made those nice little folders and moved the files into them. Data analysis, documents, media, presentations, and projects. That just tickled me for some reason. I couldn't imagine just watching it think like a human, move your mouse around, go into your terminal, and not just feeling like it's alive, right? I'm not saying that it is, but I'm not saying it's conscious. I'm not any of that stuff. It's just think about it. We've never interacted with computers or technology or anything this way. We've never had this kind of an experience on Earth before, and it's just fascinating to me. And according to Luke Chand, that is a very good thing because he argues that your only moral obligation is to do what interests you. And literally watching Claude organize my desktop, that would interest me. That interests me. That is interesting. Other people might not find that interesting. Watching a desktop get organized by a non-human entity just interests me. Maybe you too, if you like these kind of videos. So this is an article that kind of revolves around Carl Jung, who said that our main moral duty is to understand ourselves by diving into our unconscious minds. He suggests that by following our genuine interests and passions, the stuff that really grabs our attention, we can uncover hidden parts of ourselves and become who we were truly meant to be. Essentially saying like, let's answer the call to adventure with our lives. Like we only have one life to live. Obviously like you care about people, you've got to make money, you've got to like brush your teeth, you got to do all this stuff. But like, if we don't go after something that calls for us, even if it's a hobby, a free time, a personal goal, like how to live life, even if you're stuck at a crappy job and stuff, then we're not fulfilling our ethical obligation. And I do understand that that can come from a place of privilege to even think about stuff like that or to act that way because so many people have so few choices. And if you weren't given a decent opportunity or education, then yeah, I can't expect you to be really thinking about anything else but your immediate needs. But I know that when I'm genuinely interested in something, a part of why I wanted to call the channel Dylan Curious is because I know curiosity is the trait that when I'm living in it, like when I'm present in curiosity, I'm kind of in flow state usually. I'm at my happiest. I'm not in the future. I'm not ruminating in the past. I'm just like anxious in the future or ruminating. I'm just uncovering. And I'm like, oh, it just feels like the most kid-like, interesting, best version of me. And my guess would be that that's true for you too. I don't know. Like, let me know. Maybe curiosity is not the best place for you to be, but a lot of people talk about flow state. And I think there's some truth to this concept that maybe you do have a moral obligation to be curious, to do something that interests you, to follow a passion or a hobby in your life. And with AI coming, we might, obviously I have kind of a high P doom, but if it is okay and like AI is this tool that we just harness to make the world better, then probably the Star Trek future is coming where there isn't going to be a lot of like jobs that are just, go move this thing around. Like there's not gonna be truck driving jobs or delivery jobs. Like there's going to be really smart AI agents that do accounting and the stuff that lawyers do. So what are all these people going to do with their time? Well, hopefully they get curious about something. Hopefully they play with their AIs and they sit there and they ask questions and they interact with people and they do what interests them. Towards the end, Luke says that you have a duty to know yourself. The more you explore your interests, the more you understand who you actually are. The more you listen to the demon, the greater you uncover the abysmal depths of our psyche. And by the way, in this article, demon or daemon, it actually is referring to like a spirit inside of you. It's like a guiding spirit that the ancient Greeks believed in. Your daemon should represent like your deepest passion and intuition. And that should be your inner guide. Okay, so kind of piggybacking off our last video, there is some more of that kind of real-time learning that we think the future, I was speculating last video, the future of AI is not these like cutoff dates and reinforcement batches, but something more akin to like us going to sleep every night and updating and memory sort of living in this real-time thing. So it feels more like a human, right? Well, researchers, Duke University and the Army Research Lab have come up with a new artificial intelligence training method that's called Guide. It is a more human-like way to teach AI, so you can think about it like learning to drive with a coach that's sitting next to you and giving you real-time feedback instead of handing you a 500-page manual. So these researchers built a model, they tested it playing a game of hide and seek, and found that even just 10 minutes of feedback boosted the success rates by 30%. And it got me thinking, will the future of AI models be something like, imagine ChatGPT and another AI model, but the other one's like the coaching model, and it's just asking questions and giving it feedback, kind of, we have had models like this, but not exactly one that can adapt better to an intuitively dynamic situation. So it's those human traits like reasoning and decision making that affect the quality of the feedback, and that's why we've normally had to have human reinforcement learning. But to build a real-time system where, like there's essentially you're driving a car and you're learning to drive and there's somebody right next to you that can drive, that does know what to say, to teach you, has experience with that, and then is just guiding you to learn faster. Like, look at this fascinating 1v1 hide and seek game where the agent aims to learn a seeker policy that catches the hider as fast as possible.
State-of-the-art approaches typically work for offline settings, where humans provide preference feedback on collected historical data. However, this cannot be used for real-time tasks. Other methods require direct expert demonstrations, which may not always be available to the general AI user. In order to reduce the cognitive load of human trainers, we propose a neural network model that learns to mimic human feedback, acting as a surrogate for the human trainer. The key insight is that during human guidance, we can readily collect agent behavior data along with their assigned feedback values, which allows training a human feedback simulator. Once trained, the simulator can operate in inference mode to provide feedback in the absence of the human trainer. This model makes no assumptions about the human's specific feedback style or patterns. Instead, it learns to provide feedback consistent with the human trainer, minimizing the shift in reward distribution. For example, in this 1v1 hide-and-seek game, the agent aims to learn a seeker policy that catches the hider as fast as possible. The view is partially observable and will require the agent to explore the map to find and chase down the hider. This is the learning progress of the state-of-the-art human-guided RL algorithm. This is Guide on the same task.
Next up, let's talk about Cat 4D. Create anything in 4D with multi-view video diffusion models. So there's some research that also came out of Google's DeepMind, along with that's the same group that came up with Genie 2 today, and Columbia University and UC San Diego. So it wouldn't surprise me if some elements of this were baked into the new Genie model. But Cat 4D creates 4 scenes, real or generated video, and there is the ability to walk around dynamically in the scene. Now, you don't get to control, like with a mouse, where you're walking in the environment. Obviously, that's the big, Genie breakthrough, but it does create a really nice dynamic 3D scene. And you can interact with any of these. It's actually really fascinating. So you can imagine a diffusion model making a photo like this, right? Then you can imagine something like a Sora or a Kling model that kind of animates it. But look, here's where I can grab it with my mouse and move around the environment in several directions. And when I pull it to the peak edges, you can see that there's like sort of a weird blurring behind the characters' heads. It does understand that like they're in an alleyway and you can move up and down. I mean, this owl does seem to be on a branch with some sort of snow behind it. This cat playing with those potatoes is, a thing. You can look into the potatoes or go all the way down and pretty much cover them up. You get that little dog's nose right up in there, right up in your face if you want. Not that nose, that cute nose right there. Oh, a bumblebee. I don't know if you guys have been watching my channel long enough to know when I used to have all the bumblebee theme stuff. In fact, that's still where the yellow and black paper cut B-roll I generate kind of comes from. B-roll. Little fact for you newbies to the channel. Actually, if you go back long enough, the channel was actually called Curious Future. But then I realized YouTube is more about like individual creators and I'm like the only one doing anything. So I was like, why brand it? I might as well just call it Dylan Curious. Also, just want to say thanks for the views on my last video. 3 hours ago, this went up. It's already at 1.5K. That's what it displays like outwardly. But actually, if you go look at the analytics, it's blowing past my averages. So you can see it's way up at 2,000 views when normally I would be somewhere between 960 and 1.4 thousand. So you guys are definitely liking this video so far. So I'm really excited to have something that's on a nice trajectory right now. Also, I'm sort of shocked, but look at the thumbnails here. This guy, the zoomed in version, is only getting 28% click-throughs when like the smaller one where he's in the distance is like 37 and 34. Usually the one that says AI News does the best. So AI News plus the tiny one being so much different than AI News plus the zoomed in one, like that's easier for me to see a caveman. I don't know. Sometimes the thumbnail tests really teach me a lot about the audience, but I won't dwell on the stats too much because the first 3 hours of stats, they're not the same as like the 3-day stats. But we might as well dive into the comment section to get some lyrics for our song. Oh, it looks like somebody's confused. They think I might be talking crap on the Matts, but no, I literally love Matt Wolf, Matt VidPro so much. Like, especially Matt Wolf, he spent so much time with me when he was at a conference here, and like he was on my like I did a podcast with him. I'm like, anytime I bring up those guys, I'm just joking around with the other AI channels, but like super supportive. I will go out of my way to do anything for them, promote them, whatever. Like they're like we're all in this together. Like this is a bunch of AI YouTubers. Like the community is the most valuable thing. I probably won't put that in the song because I don't want anyone else to misunderstand that. But thank you for mentioning it. I'm always joking when I say that stuff or just joshing around with my boys, you know. 18K, Dylan, keep it up. You're definitely going to reach the 100K milestone in 2025. Oh, fingers crossed. We will see. That would be so awesome, but I just don't know. I can't assume it's ever going to be easy on YouTube, but you know, there is a chance, and I do believe that this is all gonna pay off, and I'm thankful for the opportunity. Oh, ungrimlock, like unlock, but ungrimlock. That's clever. Just because of that sort of pun or whatever you call those kind of things, I'm gonna put that in the song. Oh, better go ask ChatGPT. What is it called when somebody uses a word that sounds like another word, but they mix them together into a single new word? Oh, the phenomenon you're talking about is a portmanteau. I don't know. If there's a term for whatever that is, let me know. But it's great for going into a song. Oh, that looks like a lyric too. Hello, John. Hello, John. Love the shirt. Have no idea what that means, but kind of bet it'll rock. Idiocracy. It's what plants crave. That makes me laugh, so I'm going to put it there. If you know, you know. Gotta get a cup of Brondo. Dude, that would be... somebody needs to make that. And like, they gotta use that IP, whoever made Idiocracy. All right, and this quantum computing comment is going in there too. Now let's generate. Ooh, brutal death metal. Here we go. Okay, so we cannot use brutal death metal because there are barely any, you cannot hear a lyric. Sound art sounds better. Let's try that.
18K Dylan, keep it up. You're definitely going to reach the 100K milestone in 2025, Ake. Imagine fusing a quantum process within an AI space. What kind of scale could that ungrimlock? Just curious. Hello, John. Hello, John. Hello, John. Love the shirt. Idiocy. It's what plants crave. Quantum computing is all simulated by classical computation. This is why, after all mandatory error correction is performed, and never actually outperforms traditionally executed algorithms,
many of which are still not fully optimized.
Beautiful. What can I say? Subscribe. More of this AI music. More AI knowledge. More futurism.
Quantum computing is all simulated by classical computation. This is why, after all mandatory error correction is performed, it never actually outperforms traditionally executed algorithms,
Many of which are still not fully optimized.
many of which are still not fully optimized.
Many of which are still not fully optimized.
Many of which are still not fully optimized.